In 2021, in their book Plantation Zone Corporate Occupation in Indonesia's Palm Oil Zone, anthropologists Tanya Lee and Pujo Sumedi speculate about a possible relationship between the rainforests of Southeast Asia and South America. To paraphrase, it's as if the island of Borneo, also known as Kalimantan, where I am now living by the way, must be clear-cut for oil palm plantations in order to save the Amazon. This bold and kind of uncharacteristic speculation is on page 167 to be exact. This suspicion was the first I had ever heard of a long-term schema to treat the rainforests of Southeast Asia, and perhaps the Congo too, as abject fodder to keep the Amazon intact and breathing. Under the lingo of the Paris Agreement, Article 6.2, this would be known as Internationally Transferred Mitigation Outcomes. In short, a different take on the tired old idea of cap and trade, carbon credits economy, which, though debunked, we struggle to leave behind. From a political ecology perspective, it's as if primitive accumulation were occurring, or accumulation through dispossession, though it is the rainforests that are being accumulated rather than capital. When diamonds are thrown to the bottom of the ocean to preserve market value, the diamonds on the ocean floor could be called abject capital, that which is arbitrarily devalued for the sake of the value of the same objects elsewhere. So in this analogy, the rainforests of Southeast Asia have become the abject capital of the Amazon. In 2003, another anthropologist had speculated along similar lines. Anna Lowenhaupt Singh began to connect the dots between Borneo and Brazil, writing, "In Brazil, a moment of alliance between rubber tappers and Indians offered conservationists a strategy to save the forests. Yet in Indonesia, the alliance between frontiersmen and indigenous residents has only recruited the latter to the frontier. This has not been an alliance that saves forests," writes Singh. Almost a quarter century since Singh drew this comparison, the trajectory that she had mapped, in which Southeast Asia would be deforested and South America protected, culminated in the chaos at Brazil's climate conference last year in 2025. At COP30, indigenous people stormed the conference. Indonesia was labeled Fossil of the Year. What a shock this must have been to Indonesian President Prabowo, who likely felt that his post-truth stance on deforestation was just following orders in the form of structural adjustments as recommended by the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, and the IMF. Also, perhaps Prabowo was in on the plan to burn Borneo for the sake of the Amazon, and thus he may have felt betrayed by his colleagues who joined the conference in ousting him as Fossil of the Year. So shortly after this embarrassment, Prabowo pledged $1 billion to Tropical Forests Forever, a Brazil-led $125 billion global blended finance initiative created also in 2025. Now I need to crowdsource as many pairs of eyes as I can to keep a close watch on Tropical Forests Forever, TFF, as the fact that the initiative was started in 2025 makes it seem like we're just making it up as we go along. Furthermore, while carbon credit schemes have been disproven, what is TFF doing differently if it is merely helping fossils of the year wash their hands with a good PR stint? Current President Prabowo carries preceding President Jokowi's dubious lineage of claiming to be environmental while denying that there is any difference between a day-old palm oil plantation and rainforest and carbon sinks that may be well over 100 million years old. The result of this epistemological trickery is that national statistics are charting very, very swift reforestation occurring around the archipelago. I wouldn't put it past Prabowo to turn around and use his connection to TFF to actually rehabilitate what he considers forests, oil palm monocrops. So we traded Borneo for the Amazon, and all we got is lipstick, cow feed, Twinkies, biofuel, Oreo cookies. It is worth noting, however, that palm oil did replace a few trans fats in our food, so there's always a silver lining, he says, cynically. But from an ecological perspective, there is no speaking of rainforests as a universal, or as a volume which can be distributed and redistributed wherever it is convenient for business as usual. While deforestation of the Amazon would destabilize the climate, namely the Hadley cell and global moisture transport, the rivers in the sky, namely the trade winds to Africa and all associated variables, including deep ocean currents, deforestation in Southeast Asia would affect water circulation, which is El Nino and La Nina. as well as the monsoon winds of the boreal summers and boreal winters that oscillate between Australia and Siberia vis-a-vis Southeast Asia. Furthermore, the Congo is known as a hydraulic ladder, conveying moisture between Ethiopia and Egypt, while safeguarding the Congo Basin from the slow creep of desertification which is radiating out from the Sahel region. None of these examples suggest that rainforests are a modular volume of carbon sequestration and oxygen production, as though they could be picked up and put down anywhere else and provide the same ecological services. So here we are, we're trying to move on from carbon credit schemes known as emission trading schemes, ETS, or cap and trade. But what else would you call trading a forest over here for a forest over there, as though rainforests were a universal and not a particular? I predict that these new macro-level emissions trading schemes, now euphemized as natural climate solutions, are going to become more opaque to us as time goes by, as push comes to shove, and as conspiracies become truth.